Hello everyone and welcome back to the 3T Path channel. My name is Giridhari, and in this channel we dedicate ourselves to studying the yoga tradition, yoga philosophy, neuroscience and psychology so we can live better lives. But today the topic is quite mystical, quite spiritual, and it's actually I'm going to be reading two verses from the Bhagavad-gita to you. And the topic is what happens after death. It's a common question. Somebody we know dies and we think, where did they go? We want to know where someone went. Of course, we want to know where we're going to go to, so it's going to apply to us. But usually we want to know, like, what about that person? Like, what happened to, that person who died? Family member, a friend, just a famous personality. And Bhagavad-gita gives you a direct, very clear answer to this question. So let's first read the Sanskrit and then I'll read the translation and then explain it. So we're reading from Bhagavad-gita, chapter 14, verses 14 and 15. Very interesting, very important chapter, chapter 14. But I'll talk about that later. So here are the verses. Yadā sattve pravṛddhe pralayaṁ yāti deha-bhṛt tadottama-vidāṁ lokān amalān pratipadyate rajasi pralayaṁ gatvā karma-saṅgiṣu jāyate tathā pralīnas tamasi mūḍha-yoniṣu jāyate. Translation: meeting death while goodness prospers, the embodied attains to spotless worlds of highest knowers. Meeting death while passion prospers, one is born among those who cling to action. And dying in darkness, one is born of the wombs of fools. It's great, isn't it? This translations from my spiritual master, Hridayananda Das Goswami Acharya, and his brilliant book, Guide to Bhagavad-gita, which I use in my full Bhagavad-gita course. So if you want to really get into the Bhagavad-gita, I'll leave a link below to our full Bhagavad-gita course. Students from all over the world, and they really love it. So what is this? Now, this is a very important talk. As I said, chapter 14 of Bhagavad-gita is very interesting because it's a chapter that talks about the gunas. The gunas, that's translated usually as the modes of nature or the modes of material nature. And it explains this material reality. Yoga explains is made of these three substances which are called the gunas. The substratum of reality are these three vibrations, as it were, which are the three gunas, sattva guna, raja guna, and tama guna, which are usually translated as mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of darkness. Now, mode of goodness, sattva, here is goodness, when goodness prospers. In other words, when the person has lived the life in sattva. What does that mean? Well, sattva means basically that the person is focused on realizing their dharma, on doing their action, their duty, and they're not clinging to future results. They do not think, they're not motivated by results. Here in the 3T Path, we talk about this being the paradigm of reality versus the paradigm, the fantasy paradigm. Reality paradigm, fantasy paradigm. In the reality paradigm, you're in the here and now, you're focused in the best of you and doing your best of your action, dharma, and that's what you're doing. That's what motivates you. It's just being the best of you, living in harmony with yourself, living your essence. That's sattva. So people who live their lives like this, they, Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, they will attain spotless worlds of highest knowers. In other words, brilliant future. All right, of course, amongst these people, if they're already devoted, they go back home, back to God, and they get totally liberated from the material world. They never again take birth. But at the very least, even for those who are not spiritually inclined yet, who do not have devotion yet, bhakti, they have these beautiful births and amazing, places here in the universe of the highest knowers. So it's beautiful, light, realm of light and knowledge. So that's very nice. Now, Rajaguna. What's Rajaguna? Rajaguna is when the person is motivated by gain, is motivated by profit, by fame. So the person is always thinking of the future of, bigger, better, more famous. That kind of motivation is Rajaguna. And Krishna says that kind of thing fills the person with anxiety. Of course it does, right? You know it, I know it, we've lived this, right? So it fills us with anxiety and envy and anger and frustration. All these horrible things which I explained are the fantasy paradigm. So people who are like that, materially motivated, mundane material motivation of gain, of conquer, of, that kind of thing. So those people, they are born amongst those who cling to action, karma. So these are the people who are, they're called karmis. They're always, focused on action and the results of the action, which is basically like this world. So people who lived a life like that, they basically have to be born again amongst humans on this planet or some other similar situation somewhere else in the universe. So basically this kind of life you have here. Okay, so, it's not like the worst thing, but it's also like you missed the highest goal. But now it gets dark. Krishna says, and those dying in darkness, tamaguna, they are born from wombs of fools. It's a great expression, isn't it? Very poetic, the Bhagavad-gita. They're born from wombs of fools. And that includes animal species, by the way. Because the word here for fool is, includes like a bestial mind of an animal, of a creature. So it's either like a foolish human. So you'd be talking about, this is really low, okay? This is bad stuff, okay? We're talking about, people who are, drug addicts, crazy people, like just horrible people, like just people, serious problems, like, really morally challenged, so this really bad birth. Amongst humans, it would be like a terrible parents to have, like these are the kind of parents that'll dump you in the trash or leave you at home with alone for day, this is a terrible birth. Or the person's fallen all the way into a non-human birth, so they have to again crawl back to a human birth, in the automatic process of reincarnation. So when you have this question, where did a person go? People say, oh, he went to heaven. No, dear, your mommy is in heaven. People like giving this little, it's like nice golden pill, like, oh, no, your dear uncle, he went to heaven now. But the fact is, no, they did not go to heaven necessarily, unless they were in sattva and they were strictly devoted to God. Then they will go to spiritual heaven, go back home, back to Godhead, to the realm of God or something, God's abode. That's what it takes to go back to body. You have to really want it and really work for it. It's not like a cheap thing. But otherwise, you can see by their lifestyle, how did they live? The more you study the gunas, the more you understand sattva, rajas, and tamas. And the Bhagavad-gita will give you that in depth, because it's a very important topic in the yoga path. So you can see how the person lived. Was that person dedicated to purpose, to duty, being correct, honorable? Is that the kind of person? Or was it a greedy person? Was it just a silly, greedy person, just a materialist like any other, just trying to make money and just interested in making a buck and making more fame and just having some fun? Or was that kind of person? So that's Rajaguna. Or was it just like a really low person, just like a mean and nasty person, no morals, no moral compass there, broken moral compass, just horrible habits, drugs and just violence. Violence is very tamasic. So was that kind of life? Okay, so then you know that they had a very unfortunate birth. They're going to go to a very unfortunate destination. So that's it. Let me know if you understood. If you have any questions, leave below. And please don't forget to like and share. Very important. Small channel like this desperately needs likes and shares. So please like, share, and of course subscribe, and help us get this knowledge out. Have a rest of your day with lots of peace and lots of love.